Alright, hello and welcome everyone to the patch 11.9 Explainifying. For those of you who are new to these videos, I'm going to go over these patch notes and I'm going to try to go over them for people who maybe aren't the best at the game, people who just want to understand why these changes are being made, what changes are being made, what these changes really mean, and basically I'm going to try to dumb it down for people so that you can understand without having the greatest technical knowledge over the game and all the patch notes and everything, because I am a nerd and I mostly remember everything. I'm going to go over these and I'm going to tell you why things are happening, what exactly is happening, why I would disagree or why I think it's dumb or anything like that, and if they're going to change much. So go over these in order, whereas before I did heavy editing and I tried to, do all that stuff, it was a lot of work and you guys actually seemed to like it less. So doing a lot of work to get less results didn't really make much sense. So up first we have Diana. Now, last time we visited Diana, I did tell you guys that she was going to get nerfed. So here is her getting nerfed. She is currently overperforming to an extreme margin in the jungle and in mid lane. She's broken. She was already overperforming in mid lane, and when they buffed her jungle at the early ranks, buffed her passive at the early ranks, that just buffed her everything. Everything got buffed. Shockingly, yes, she started to become extraordinarily overpowered. I don't know how Riot didn't think that, like, I don't get it, right? Like, it's one of those changes where I just don't get it. So they're nerfing her attack speed early game. They're nerfing her health regen, which affects mostly her early game, and then they're nerfing her armor growth, which will affect mostly her mid to late game. She is overperforming pretty damn hard right now. This will especially impact her mid lane and might take it down a little bit, and it'll probably impact her jungle a little bit. But something that I think a lot of people need to consider is that a lot of the people playing Diana in the jungle haven't actually played much Diana to begin with. And her pick rate being extraordinarily high, being the most picked jungler at the higher ranks in combination with having a high win rate, means that very likely she will still she'll still continue to overperform as the junglers continue to learn how to play her. These changes are a good amount of bringing down her power. Health regen will slightly affect the jungle. It'll mostly affect mid lane. Having less attack speed early on will make her clear worse a little bit and make her Olin worse a little bit, and the armor growth will hurt her mid to late game. But overall, while there are 3 nerfs, none of these nerfs are very impactful. So I very much suspect that this champion will continue to dominate, and while this will slow it down, I suspect that she will still maintain being one of the strongest champions in the game. I mean, she'll still very likely be top 10. Next up, we have Mundo. Now, Mundo is getting armor growth per level nerfed and AD growth per level nerfed. Mundo, I actually had to look because I couldn't understand where Mundo was overperforming. I couldn't understand it. And what I eventually found out was that if you compared all ranks, so like normal games and extraordinary low rank, Mundo top was performing slightly too well. This is really stupid. They call him oppressive, an oppressive state. I don't see this, because the moment you even get to a decent rank, his stats fall very far back into basically around where the other champions like Garen are. You know, the more simple champions who go top lane, like, he's not out of line, in my opinion. I don't understand where they're getting this idea that he's out of line. So here we're seeing the Garen nerfs. Now, Garen, unlike Mundo, one of the reasons that Riot, I believe, is finally targeting Garen is because he maintains, all the way into Masters Plus, Garen maintains a viability. Let's call it that. He's not great, but he's viable. If you look at the lower ranks, he's one of the dominant picks in the game. Garen's W is being nerfed. Instead of getting 0.25 armor and resistance per stack, he's now getting 0.2. And then instead of capping at 120, he's capping at 150. He will cap out and get the same armor and magic resist at 150 kills instead of 120. So it's slowing down the rate at which he gains armor and magic resist. This will make him a bit squishier early on, and it'll definitely tone down his power, especially because, and I believe the reason that they're doing this nerf is because low-ranking players tend to CS worse, get the minions worse, and therefore this disproportionately will target the lower-ranked players. Moving on to Gragas, we see that the damage on his body slam at the higher ranks is going down by 20. He's losing 5 damage per rank. this isn't really a big nerf. I don't really see this affecting much. One of the reasons that Gragas is so picked at the higher ranks is his ability to kind of win lane against certain champions while being extremely safe while doing it. It seems like what Riot is trying to do is that he's not particularly overpowered. He just can... so this might take a little bit too long to explain within this video, but basically within pro play, if a champion can be picked in 1, 2, 3 lanes, even if they are subpar in all 3 of those lanes, if you first pick them, you can then flex pick, as in what you can do is first pick a Gragas, and if they pick a top laner who Gragas is strong against, you put him top. If they pick a support who Gragas is strong against, you put him in support. If they pick a jungler who Gragas is strong against, you put him in jungle. So you basically have this pick that can go into 3 different roles, and you first pick them and sit on them, and you just wait to see where you're going to chuck him. So it seems like what this nerf is trying to do is that he's not particularly overpowered. They're just trying to make him weaker overall so that when you pick him in pro play, because you have to remember this is the MSI patch happening here, mid-season invitational patch, the tournament that they do. So what they're trying to do is depower champions like Gragas, who will excel in a tournament level setting. And Hecarim, who I think he's been here practically every video I've done on the patch notes so far. On Hecarim, they are destroying him. Basically, they're destroying him. His armor is going down, but his armor per level is going up. These will about equal out at level 18, but losing that armor early game is way more valuable. Plus, he'll have less armor throughout the entire game. Not a lot, but a little bit. The amount of bonus damage he gets from his Q stacks, if anyone knows Hecarim, each time he hits with a Q, he can gain 1, then 2 stacks. At each stack, he does bonus damage on his Q. Instead of 5%, it's now 2%, but it gets an additional AD ratio. That means that about 100 AD, he will get back to the 5% bonus damage per stack. In addition to the W change, which I'll talk about, what they're doing is they're changing his W so that it works exactly the way it does now, except allies now only heal him for 15% of their damage dealt, not 30% of the damage they deal. He's gaining an AD ratio on the healing so that the more damage he builds, the more he heals. It will basically be impossible to get these numbers really that high. If you had 200 bonus damage, this would only heal for 35% instead of the 30. They are directly and intentionally killing Hecarim. They're putting into the game the mechanics within damage. Hecarim can use these mechanics and be a little bit viable, but not for now. For now, this is basically MSI is coming up. Hecarim is a very strong pick. We're killing him, so he doesn't show up, so he doesn't get picked. We're killing him. We'll deal with it later. They're also putting in a massive nerf on his E. The damage is going down 60 at rank 1, 90 at rank 5. 90. Tank Hecarim receives a damage nerf, a big damage nerf, a healing nerf, a big healing nerf, an early game arm nerf, so he's dead. My gut feeling is he'll be around a 48% win rate after this. Heimerdinger. I could not find any data to support any of the bullshit that they just said here. He's overperforming in top, mid, and bot at high levels of play. I don't believe this at all. This should read, we don't want to see Heimerdinger in MSI. We are nerfing him preemptively so that he doesn't show up. This bullshit of he's overperforming, I could show you stats that he is not, in comparison to other champions, overperforming. The Jinx change. Now, here is the Jinx change. Right when they went into the season, they reduced crit damage from 200% to 175%. Now, what they forgot to do is make that when the splash damage on her rockets crit, as of now, it was critting for 200%, not 175%. They're giving her a 12.5% damage reduction on the AoE on her rockets when they crit. For those who think Jinx is overpowered and those who want to see a nerf to Jinx, this is a nerf to Jinx. Now, she is overpowered right now. Her stats are extraordinarily good. I don't believe she is that overpowered. I think the stats show, and this is my gut feeling, I don't play Jinx, so I'm not biased towards Jinx, okay? But my gut feeling when playing against Jinx is that she might be a little bit overpowered, but she doesn't feel that bad. I think that this change is a good one. Obviously, it's a bug fix. Obviously, bug fixes are good. Consistency is good. And I believe that this will be a decent hit into her power. Not a great one, but a decent knock. We might see a few decimals of percentage of our win rate come off. It needs to come off a little bit more. She's performing a little bit too well. But I think that this is largely fine. Kayn, I don't agree with this at all. I think Kayn is high pick rate good, at least average win rate. I don't really see the point of focusing on a champion who is already performing decently well. I don't see the point of looking into that champion and saying to yourselves, how can we make him perform even better? I mean, the dude's top 10 pick rate, his win rate goes anywhere from 49 to 50%. I don't believe he is underperforming anywhere. I'm not entirely sure I agree with this one. The only thing I can think of is that they're trying to push Red Kayn to be more viable randomly, maybe for the lower ranks where he performs a little bit worse. Because definitely at the higher ranks, Blue Kayn, because AD itemization is way better than other itemizations right now. Anyone who's played the game can tell you, yeah, AD itemization is probably the best in the game right now. I'm not saying this is a terrible change. It's likely going to be fine. I don't really see this disrupting very much. It's not that big of a change anyway. Now remember, this is the AD ratio flat, I believe. This is not the AD ratio into percent health damage. Some of you guys might get confused on that, but I promise you he's not going to be dealing more percent health damage. He will deal 0.2 more AD on his Qs. Kindred is getting her Q cooldown reduced, and she's getting the base damage on it increased at the higher ranks. So we have Kindred here, and I really dislike Kindred a lot. They're reducing the cooldown on her Q, and they are increasing its base damage. She's underperforming a little bit, I guess, but in my opinion, I think they should look at and address what makes the current best junglers overperform compared to, let's take the weaker junglers who haven't really received many changes or any changes from last season who are now underperforming. They should look more into why these junglers who haven't received many changes are underperforming. So that's really my only complaint, is I'd like to see Riot for once actually look into the overperforming junglers and say to themselves, how can we tone these guys down a little bit? Kog'Maw, now this is part of a two-part change, Kog'Maw and Lulu. It seems to me, and a lot of other people, that Riot is trying to bring Juggermaw into competitive for the MSI. For those of you who don't know, Juggermaw is named Juggermaw because it's Juggernaut Kog'Maw. As in Lulu ults Kog'Maw, he gets really big, and then he carries the game. It's typically done by playing Lulu, Kog'Maw, probably a support mid, maybe jungle, and basically you just do a Kog'Maw hard carry comp. And that, it seems like they're trying to push that at the MSI. I disagree with this so much. Now, I would be kind of okay with them buffing Kog'Maw, maybe. I don't particularly agree with them just giving him more resistant shred, because I don't believe tanks are overperforming right now anyway, and Kog'Maw still performs really good against tanks. So if you're going to try to push him right now, I feel like you should push him by making him better, maybe against what's relevant, not by just making him destroy tanks even harder. The big issue here is that they're buffing Lulu, because Lulu is the second highest pick support basically everywhere. Once you reach, let me actually look this up. Yeah, once you reach Platinum, Lulu becomes the second highest pick support, Platinum and higher, at every rank, into Challenger, because Lulu's really good right now. The only reason she's not the highest pick support is because Thresh is so ungodly broken still. You might have remembered last couple of patch notes where Thresh got nerfed twice, and I said, this guy is so broken, I don't think this is going to change anything. Well, it didn't change anything. He's still that broken. But of the supports who aren't horribly Thresh level broken, Lulu is performing the best. Reducing the cooldown on Polymorph, I don't really have anything else to say than that. Reducing the cooldown on Polymorph is insane. I don't know what Riot is thinking with this one. If I actually go and look this up, and I'll show you guys on screen when I'm going to look it up. If you actually go and look it up, Fiddlesticks' fear and duration are now going to be considered, like, Fiddlesticks will be able to fear less on less duration by a good 2 seconds than Polymorph. Fiddlesticks, whose whole thing is fearing. The only thing I can think of here is that Riot is deliberately making Lulu overpowered for now to push Juggermaw so that they can nerf Polymorph's duration next patch so that they can reduce its cooldown but reduce its duration. That's the only thing I can think of. If they don't now go and nerf Polymorph's duration, I truly believe that Riot has gone insane. Just the fact that they're buffing an extraordinarily good support, the second best support, only second to the most broken support, Thresh. I don't know. It's just crazy to me because this just doesn't make any sense. Under Morgana, now some of you might be confused. Why are they nerfing Morgana jungle? They just buffed it. Let me tell you why. Morgana jungle is broken, and I mean broken, and I mean broken. This thing, and I call it a thing, is disgusting. This is not going to be toned down. This will not at all get her back to where she needs to be. She is broken. Morgana is no longer a support, she is now an enchanter in the jungle. As such, in that role, enchanter of the jungle, she is extraordinarily overperforming. When they reduced the cooldown on her Q, I think what they need to do, I think what Riot needs to do is finally go back and admit it's time to finally reduce Dark Binding's duration. It was a funny meme for the last 20 years that I've been rooted, but... So, to the surprise of nobody, when I went over the Rumble passive changes in my last video, you guys noticed that even if you built literally no health, his passive was hitting you harder. So he was gaining MR Shred, and he was gaining damage on his passive hits, and he was gaining attack speed. So they're nerfing this by a good chunk, 5 damage at the early rank and 10 damage at the high ranks, as in addition to lowering its AP ratio. The best way I can put this right now is that he's destroying everyone he touches, and yes, he needs to be toned down considerably. On to Sett. Now, Sett, a lot of people don't like Sett, and they wonder why. Why is Sett even being nerfed? Sett is bad. Sett is not good at all. He looks kind of decent to your average player just because he will always be able to run up and punch people to death. I'm not even going to call it a balance issue, but it's called a perspective issue, where early game he will be able to run up and punch you to death, and that's his thing. So he'll always do that decently. The problem is right now, he tends to not be able to do much other than punch you to death early game and hope to snowball the game out by level 5. Now what they're doing is they're increasing the damage ratio on his Haymaker and the damage ratio on his ultimate. Now remember, his ultimate converts AD into just flat damage, bonus AD, right? Now on his Haymaker, what this is doing is that this converts the amount of shield he gets into the amount of damage he deals. In other words, as of right now, every 100 bonus AD he builds, another 10% of his shield turns into damage. They're changing it to, for every 100 bonus AD you build, 20% of his shield will convert into damage. This will definitely make player opinion on him a little annoyed. Despite not performing that well, tends to be a high pick champion at the lower ranks and does a lot of people don't know that he's not that great, but he does good enough that people think he's good. A lot of people have even gotten out of the habit of even dodging his W because it does such low damage now after all the nerfs. A lot of people just face tank his W and not even care. With this change, especially into the late game, his Haymaker, I mean, we're talking over 1,000 true damage at the very least. Potentially, I mean, we're talking upwards of 1,500 in the late game. So a lot of people are going to get hit by this, and they're going to be very angry, and we're going to see forum posts. I don't know if this is going to make him over the top. I don't know if this is going to make him overpowered. What I do like is they have focused the buffs on making Haymaker an actual ability again, worth playing around. That's good. Haymaker is one of the only abilities that Sett has that he can actually try to hit you with and actually try to... that actually has like some gameplay around it, right? He can try to stun you into it. He can try to ult you and keep you slowed into it. It's one of the only abilities that has actual gameplay right now other than just run up and keep punching you, right? I think it's a good idea to focus on that when you want to buff Sett. Going on with Kog'Maw, we see the Shen buff. Now, a lot of people don't like Shen getting buffed because this buff is not a good idea. I think this buff is a very bad idea. In fact, this buff is a really, really bad idea. I'm going to keep saying it because this buff is a really bad idea. And the only reason I can see Riot trying to push this is because obviously they're trying to push Kog'Maw. It is so obvious that they're trying to deliberately force the meta at Worlds, or I should say at MSI, into being Kog'Maw. They just seemingly are trying to force an Exodia comp where basically if you get all the pieces, you win with Kog'Maw. And we all go, oh my god, did you see him carry on Kog'Maw? Wow, what a great game. Wow, he played so well when 3 people were shielding him and blah, 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 blah. What they're doing is they're adding a health ratio onto his ultimate, meaning his health will convert into the shield that he places on his allies. This champion is not underperforming. This is a bad idea. Making a champion deliberately overpowered because you want to see Kog'Maw at MSI is a bad idea. I don't know why people are forgiving Riot for this. I don't know why people are letting this go. Making a champion overpowered because you want to see Kog'Maw at MSI is a bad idea. That is a bad idea. For Taric, now this one will see a shift. What they're doing is, if your character is no longer on the map, if you're in Master Yi's Q or Lisa's Repel, or the examples they give, Taric's E, his stun beam thing, will no longer go off. This destroys Taric Master Yi entirely. This literally breaks the synergy. In return, they're reducing the mana cost on the higher ranks of Taric's Q by 20, from 110 to 90. My personal belief is that Taric has been absolutely smashed with nerfs because of the synergy he had with Master Yi. He's not really performing that well, and I think they could have snuck a little bit extra in here. This is obviously a good change. This is a good buff. Overall, this is great. In all honesty, this is a great change overall from the perspective of they're breaking his broken synergy with Master Yi and in return buffing the champion. That, in my opinion, is a good change. The Shen thing, horrible change. Horrible for the game. Oh my god, they are going to nerf Shen after this. This Taric change, really good idea. Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, great change. Break his synergy with Master Yi, buff the champion, great change. On to Trundle, we are seeing the slow at the early ranks of his pillar increased. Now, because Trundle doesn't max pillar, this affects him throughout the entire early to the entire mid game. It's a good change, probably. I might have liked if they'd reduced the cooldown on his pillar a bit, but overall, it's a good change. Actually, I want to talk about this Vladimir thing because I'm kind of pissed off over this. And the reason I'm pissed off over this is it shows the exact lying nature that Riot has. And I say lying as in deliberately misleading people to do whatever they want without getting player-based blowback. Now, here's the thing. When they buffed Vladimir, they were talking about the components and how he used to build a lot of cooldown reduction components, and now he couldn't, so they were buffing the cooldown on his Q. But now we see our last buff brought Vlad back into the role of a scaling powerhouse. The buff they did was intended for the early game, right? But here they are admitting, oh, actually, we wanted to make him a good late game carry again. Do you see? Let's talk about the fact that they have made like the 10th S++++ tier champion this season. I also have an issue with them blatantly overbuffing a champion. I don't want to rag on them all the time. It's your job, and you cannot keep making S++ tier champions all the goddamn time because you don't know what to do. You had to have known that. Okay, so I'm just gonna go past it. Xerath Q is getting a large buff. The damage is going down by 10, but the AP ratio is going up by 10%. The damage on his W is remaining the same at rank 1, but the damage at the max rank is going up by 20, which will then also go up to targets hit in the middle by 33. It's a fairly large buff. Nothing more to say. It's a fairly large buff. On to items. Deadman's is losing HP. Riot hates tank items with HP. I think anyone that plays tanks right now knows that it is very hard to get a decent amount of health on a tank. This is actually a change that, once again, I'm going to give this 2 thumbs up. I would have liked to see them increase the amount of health you get back. Overall, this does make it better into physical damage comps, and I believe I don't think it'll outperform Steraks, but I do believe this is a good overall change for the perspective of trying to actually get other items to not always be outperformed by Steraks. Moonstone's getting a little bit of a buff, and I said this in my last video. Moonstone seemed to be a little bit overperforming, but Enchanters as a class did not seem to be overperforming, so I'm not really sure why they were nerfing Moonstone. So they're going back and they're giving it a little bit of an oomph. On to Prowler's Claw, it's getting some targeting updates. I don't really have much to say. I don't really use this item. I don't really I know literally what it's doing. I'm just not really sure what exactly the purpose of this change is. You know, great, I guess. I won't give it 2 thumbs up because I don't actually know if this is really fixing an issue. Sunfire Aegis is getting more damage to monsters, meaning it'll be better in the jungle. I think the issue is that when you go Chem Tank, you get a ganking item and a jungle item at the same time, so there's no real point to going Sunfire. The best change that this is actually going to do is that when a laning champion goes Sunfire, they can then clear objectives a bit faster. Going from 200% damage, remember this is bonus damage, going from 200% damage to 250% damage means it's getting a 25% damage boost against the jungle, meaning a champion who builds Sunfire and then goes to help on Dragon or Baron will do more damage. I think Sunfire is a little bit underperforming right now, so this isn't the worst thing at all. Not exactly a terrible change, and maybe we could see more Sunfire users. Maybe Zach might go Sunfire or something. I don't know. Turbo Chem Tank is getting a nerf. Personally, I believe they just need to nerf its damage against monsters. Getting a jungle item that also allows you to gank really well is too good. I don't know why we're avoiding this issue. I keep saying it and we keep coming back here. Nerfing Chem Tank users, nerfing Chem Tank, not addressing the issue that Chem Tank is too good as a jungle clearing item that allows you to gank spam. 30 to 40. I think it might do something. Maybe some people will go this item now. It'll do a crap load of damage now. I think what we might see is that if you would go Blade of the Ruined King, but instead you were fighting a magic champion, maybe you'd go Wit's End. So maybe we'll see Trinity, Wit's End, Steric's Gauge, maybe something like that. I'm just spitballing, but it does make it look a lot more competitive at the very least. It makes it look more competitive against other items. Relevant bug fixes. I looked over these and the only ones that really seemed like they would do that much are the Jace W Hypercharge updating his attack speed correctly. I heard this is a very rare bug a few weeks ago and basically wouldn't update his attack speed correctly, but it seemed to be like a 1% or less chance of it happening, so it'll affect things but not that much. The second one is this Rambus Q Powerball change. I've never heard of this and I don't know what it does, so I can't really comment, but ta-da, I guess. So far as new skins coming out, we've got the skin line for the World Champions. Looks pretty cool. Not gonna lie, looks pretty cool. The Jack skin, which actually looks pretty damn cool. Not gonna lie, that looks pretty damn cool. I can't knock that one. Damn, does that have chromas? And then we've got the Prestige Edition skin for Jax, which again looks, the Prestige also looks pretty dang cool, not gonna lie. Leona also kind of looks hot in like an 80s way. I mean, if you're into like 80s girls, which actually surprisingly a lot of people are. Canon skin looks terrible. Anyway, so that's it for my video. I hope this helped you guys. Hope this helped you guys learn the patch notes, you know, what's going on, general changes happening to League, and I hope you guys like and subscribe. I didn't put that at the start, but hopefully you guys will remember to do that anyway. So, yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and come back for more Hashinshin content. Each time I do these patch note videos, I try to do them a little bit better each time. I think this one, I'm kind of experimenting on this one. If you guys prefer this, I just zoomed in on the patch notes and I just went over them. I'll put relevant information around the video, you know, former patch notes that align with what I'm saying, things like that. I think a comical tone would be better more. This time I didn't really do that comical tone. I kind of just went over the changes and, you know, but I'll try to, yeah. So once again, I'm still, you know, working as we go, doing better each time, right? So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching again. And I appreciate you all again. I just said the same thing twice. So thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.